So this was driving me nuts. I was scrolling through Netflix the other day, and I was like, there's 8 gazillion movies.
Lots of movies.
Most of them are trash. Probably 95% are just trash movies. I don't know if 3 people have seen it. It took a production team and most likely millions of dollars to make each one of these movies. And they were contrasting it, and my mind just does this immediately, start contrasting with great records and trash records, which do not cost millions of dollars to make.
They don't, but there's a lot of music out there.
There's a lot of music, tons of music, and more can be made now than ever before because of the fact that you can have a recording studio at home in your laptop or on your freaking phone. Yeah. Now you can record a whole album on, which I think is wonderful.
It is.
But I'm going to argue, in most cases, like music can really hold down through the decades much better than most cinema.
See, I think that's true.
Wow, we agree on that.
We agree on that, but we might disagree on the reasons why.
And I don't really know what the reasons why are. I'm still exploring this as a thought. It's a thought grenade. It's a thought bomb that just I lie awake at night thinking about these things. I need help.
It's true. He does.
I do need therapy sometimes. So why do you think it's different?
Well, I think that there's something different in seeing like visual, especially movies with like visual effects. I think those 100%. They get dated a lot quicker than certain sounds. But the other thing I think, like for me, and it was funny talking before, you see this differently. Like to me, a lot of times music's in the background. It's like the soundtrack for things. So I connect it to things that happen in my life, like nostalgia, where I don't really connect movies that way. Because when I go see a movie, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm just not as much of a movie file or whatever you call it. Where I go.
No, I think you are. It's just
I do love movies, but I don't know. I don't categorize them in the same way. Like there's not too many films where I could say, oh, I remember the summer of so and so when I watched this movie.
So that is like I do. I remember like
you
when
do,
I
though.
see that's what we were talking about. Like I'm watching the Hunger Games like saga again right now, and I usually watch it once a year, maybe once every 2 years, and I do the same with Twilight because it's when my wife and I were dating. Yeah. And it's not like, oh, it's a romantic moment. I just love it. It's imprinted in my brain. Twilight reference. But it's
But see, and I've seen all the Twilight movies. I've seen all the Hunger Games movies. I just don't connect them in the same way.
No, and I go back and I watch them and I'll say, and I'm watching the Hunger Games in a very different way than Twilight. Those are still great sci-fi cinematic movies, like of dystopian futures.
Yeah.
I can watch those because they're great source material. Twilight's different. That's just definitely because I thought it was fun. I was dating. I still love it. It's got this thing, and it's almost John Waters in a weird way. Like as far as auteur filmmaking, it's strange. That's a reach, I know, but it's like it's got that sort of circa 2010 John Waters-isms. Once you get to the last Breaking Dawns in particular, which are almost comedies in some respects, parts of them, especially with the CGI baby. What was happening?
It was great.
It's
great
just
choice.
so weird. It's
very strange.
No, but I can remember like the exact moment I saw Top Gun, the first one, and with my father at the cinema, and just how it just and like Braveheart and like walking out Private Ryan, like these big epic sweeping movies.
Maybe part of it for me is we didn't go see movies like that. Like I can remember certain movies, watching them, like renting them and watching them with my father.
Maybe that is it. Maybe it's the theater.
Because we didn't go to the theater hardly ever. Like the movies I remember are watching like the Rocky movies with my dad, or my favorite movie ever with my dad. And I have such a spot for this movie because I'd watch it on like Sunday on TBS with my dad. Bloodsport.
That is so flipped up. But see, mine was Cool Hand Luke with my father and The Dirty Dozen. Yeah. We used to watch that like ad nauseum. But Bloodsport, that's
or like
hilarious.
Chuck Norris. My dad loved Clint Eastwood. He loved Chuck Norris, and the man loved Jean-Claude Van Damme. I'm saying love like as if he's not here. He loves Bloodsport. We would watch like Bloodsport, Lionheart. What's the one where they're twins? Like Double Trouble or something stupid.
Time Cop is legit too, and he does that split over like the electrocuting water.
He always does the split.
But it's over the water. There's something there's something strangely like sexually leading with that too.
There's just that scene in Bloodsport where they got him like he's tied to the tree and the guy's like pulling him all his limbs apart.
It's absurd.
Yeah, it is absurd.
But, there's a classic nature to those films too, though.
There is, and I mean, yeah.
No, but it is like, when we were talking about music, some of the great albums that imprinted on me was like, Zeppelin 1 and 2, I remember. The Doors. I remember hearing Pink Floyd with my uncle. My Uncle Michael used to play that out at the swimming pool where he was smoking. I thought it was a cigarette at the time. And his Speedo with his he was a good looking dude. He had all the ladies like Uncle Michael, man. He was just like, And speaking of Uncle Michael, father of Chris Collins, Edward Jones, extraordinary investor, investment advisor,
circle.
whatever. It all comes back. We talked about him earlier in the week, and I was like, oh, 2 plugs in 1 week. Holy crap.
Oh my God,
Chris
business
Collins.
is booming for him. He's going to be calling to thank
He's
you.
like, Baxter, I'm trying to retire. I'm so rich, I can't help anybody else. Click.
I want to say that one day.
It's never going to happen.
No, it's not.
No, not
Dream. I can dream.
No, we don't get to experience that.
No.
It's just...
But I have lots of guitars and fun.
You're not driving a 1939 Goldwing Mercedes, so are you?
No.
Neither is Chris, but I thought it was
not.
a funny thing to say anyway,
is.
and that's not the year. Anyway, no. So there are those records that sort of hit me, like in Sgt. Pepper's Lonely. I remember like jogging once as a teenager. My parents like were yelling down the road, like, Baxter, they're playing the record. I know you want to record it on the radio, so I got home with my tape set and because that's what you had to do back in the day. You couldn't stream music.
That's right.
It came on. No, but the reason this whole thing came about in a lot of ways is I was thinking about these old movies too, not just the trash ones out, that I just don't want to watch again.
Yeah.
But like a great old record, I can listen to that anytime. And don't get me wrong, like some new pop records sound fresher and flashier, like the new Taylor Swift record sounds amazing.
It does.
And all the new pop star records sound amazing, kind of akin to the Marvel world. It's amazing explosions.
That's a good
bam
analogy. That's good. Yeah.
But then what you said earlier with the technology, you go back to like the big box office. Let's do the dud of Cleopatra, like Liz Taylor, which was one of the biggest Hollywood duds that they'd ever seen to this point, and it eventually made its own money back. But I don't want to watch that movie now.
I mean, nobody's chasing I really want those vintage 2010 CGI like shots. No one's saying that, but we are still chasing 1950s guitar tone or 1960s. You know what I mean?
But some of the classics, like some of this great stuff from the 70s, some of the great stuff from the 50s and 60s too. But 70s had some great filmmaking. I love Lee Marvin. But we still do capture that in cinema. I mean, Quentin Tarantino pretty much replicated it in the 90s.
Right, that's true.
And to today too. I mean, God, I thought his last film was perhaps my favorite, but maybe because I'm a grown man now too. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I still haven't seen that. I don't know how I haven't seen it yet.
And I understand. I waited 2 years to see it before
Right.
I watched it almost, and I was like, because it didn't excite me, the topic.
Right.
And then I watched. I was like, gosh darn,
But it's something about just the way he tells the story, like Pulp Fiction, where we're just...
which is one of the greatest movies ever made. I'd say I put that in
It's-
the canon of Orson Welles, and like you go back to But then we were talking about Taxi Driver earlier, and that's one of the great movies too.
Sure.
And I don't really necessarily want to watch it. I don't want to watch The Godfather again right now either because it's such a commitment.
Right.
Whereas if I put on freaking Guardians of the Galaxy, I got 2 hours and 20 minutes of
A raccoon shooting things. It's great. Fantastic.
but I'm gonna say that's maybe my favorites of the Marvel world in some ways. Like I feel like there's James Gunn is brilliant in his own way. He's got that. He's also got that John Watersism mixed with a little bit of that bubblegum, mixed with like the ability to put this action together. Unlike Shyamalan, who I loved his early films,
Yeah.
but when he did Avatar: Last Airbender, probably one of the biggest pieces of trash ever made.
Yeah, sadly.
Yeah, because he can't do the big act, and Old was not good either. God, that sucked. It was so disappointing. I was so mad. I was so excited for Return to Form.
He was very sad.
We all went to the theater.
You don't
I was like, I'm
understand.
paying.
Yeah. No. Mm-mm.
And then,
Sad.
And then Derek and I went and saw Nope, and I was like, that is amazing.
Right.
Nope was great. Like
Yeah.
the Peel is 3 out of 3 right now. And Shyamalan had 2 out of 2 for the first 2. Come on, man. I love those 2 are still some of the best movies of that stuff ever made. But no, but it's hardly even like going back and watching some of these old movies. We were talking about Lawrence of Arabia, which I love. Or Sound of Music, which I also love. It's hard to watch for today's kids.
I just rewatched that with
slow.
my kids. My kids actually enjoyed it.
Because the Nazis, right?
Well, But it's
You're
hard.
Nazis, boys' attentions are like, bad guys, cool.
It's just hard. It's a.
Well, the shots are different.
Slow. Yeah.
And it's almost like the old classic bluegrass recordings or the blues recordings where it's like a mic in a room.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not even getting into the engineering side of it as much as just the aspect of because music can be background.
It can be.
Whereas a movie, it can be background for certain viewers.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a movie viewer that watches the movie with my phone out.
Right.
I've never done that. I never will do that unless the movie just sucks.
No, you're there. You're in it.
I'm in it. You and I both commit usually.
So here's an interesting question about your household, and I feel like I know the answer to this. Do you ever have anything like movie wise just playing where no one's sitting there, like it's just in the background?
Never. The TV's not on.
There you go.
There's no news on. I never have like YouTube TV or any of that stuff on. It's just the TV is off unless it's being actively.
You're actively watching it if
either
you're watching
playing a video game, or we're watching something, or we're watching as a family.
Right.
The kids just they don't have the sort of right to just go turn on the TV.
Right.
They do if on Saturday mornings you go play a video game here for or watch some Bear and Lemmings, Grizzly and Lemmings. I mean, great show. I think it's made in Montreal. Great cartoon. It's like a modern day Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah.
But no, I look at the act of viewing and listening to music as it's almost sacred to me.
Like actively engaged. Yeah.
Like I want because I know people spent their lives and their time and their money and their art and their heart making this. And when I listen to My Chemical Romance every morning before anyone else gets here for an hour, I listen to it really loud usually, and I'm doing work. But I'll find bands like that, just that have an emotional connection to me for some period.
Right.
And same with movies. Like when I'm alone and can watch something, it's usually a movie I've seen.
Right.
It's what my father does. It's so weird. It's usually some sweeping movie that I might have seen with my dad, or some action movie that's like a big action movie that I love.
See, I put on when everyone else, because I'm usually last to go to bed in my house most of the time. And so, if everyone else is asleep, I'll put on a movie I've seen, but I'm playing guitar or working on a guitar or doing something. And it's there. It's kind of comforting because I know what's happened. I've seen it many times.
I know I can't do it.
I do that and I love it.
I'll fold laundry sometimes if it's Better Call Saul. I'm trying to burn through that because I was trying to get through that quickly. And that type of stuff, I'm not going to give as much attention to.
See, sometimes for me it's a series like that, but usually it's a series I've seen. But see, I don't do that as much with random music. Music for me, I got to drive to Mississippi this weekend. But I'll pick out
you're
3 or
gone next
4.
week,
That's
ain't you?
right.
Yeah.
That's right. I'll pick out 3 or 4 albums that I really want to listen to, and I'll listen to them in their entirety while I'm driving.
Yeah, and I usually do Sirius XM when I'm driving, and just I like to hear random sometimes, and sometimes NPR because I'm that boring middle-aged white guy. I'm yep, this is my demographic. You got me nailed. Cool. Let me hear about this state of the world. And then I get too sad, and I'll put on music again because then I realize the news is just feeding you to sell ad sales. Not NPR, right? They're completely unbiased.
Of course not. Yeah, absolutely.
So they're not either.
Bulwark
I love them, but I know you're not unbiased. I love you NPR people. Definitely biased. But everyone is. We're all biased.
Well,
yeah. But back to the beginning point is it is strange. That I think even great movies get lost in history.
Yes.
Because it takes a certain level of devotion to sit there and watch it. You can't, watching movies like Breakfast at Tiffany's or something, which I don't think is great. I know it's crazy to say that. I've watched it twice now. The first time I thought it was horrible, and the second time I was I'll review it. I'm not there yet. I'm sorry. But some of the classics, I will go back to Lawrence of Arabia. Amazing. It's hard to, you can't just passively do it.
No.
I can passively listen to Zeppelin 1. I can passively listen to the Eagles, Hell Freezes Over, or
his favorite record, he loves the Eagles.
I'm putting that with Breakfast at Tiffany's. Just kidding.
I just don't get it.
I didn't like the Eagles for a long time. It's a weird thing.
I understand why you don't. I really do. Especially knowing your personality, I kind of get it because they are sort of in a weird sense, very commercial. We wrote these songs to be hits. Yeah. It's not Zeppelin. You know what I mean? It's not.
I like the magic of it all. I like the magic of Hendrix and the magic, the magic of the Velvet Underground, playing at the ski shops and then coming home to be an accountant.
It's a bit of a different thing. It's a different
I need therapy.
Way to think about songwriting.
No, but this helps. And we're going to be digging into some of the stuff a lot more because we are going to start talking about movies. It might be in this channel. It might be a different channel. Who knows?
Who knows?
We've started sort of the incubus of this has begun. So stay tuned. Thanks again for watching. Click like, subscribe.
Hit.